Game of Thrones Season 8 is finally done and over with, and so I can finally give you my full thoughts on everything that I have seen throughout this entire season. I'm a massive Game of Thrones fan, so the idea of seeing this show never again, the fact that this was the last episode that aired just tonight, makes me a little sad. But I want to talk about the season because this has had some very interesting reception. And for a show that is this popular, the kind of reception it's gotten and the kind of treatment the final season's gotten is very interesting. And I want to talk about that more in depth, so I was waiting for the entire season to get over so that I could share my proper thoughts on it. I was initially going to see if I could do episode by episode reviews, but then I decided not to do that because I wanted to give my concise thoughts once I had the whole thing in hand and I could really judge it from that point of view. Now, normally I don't do this in reviews like this because I like to have people watch this stuff before in case I talk about stuff that, that if they haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it. But I've realized I can't really go into too much detail if I don't talk detail about season 8. So I'm going to give you two spoiler warnings throughout this entire video. During this time, you guys can choose to either continue watching or you can watch up to that certain point and then stop watching at that point. Or if you've seen all of it, you can see. So now is my first spoiler warning. This is from episodes 1 to 5. If you've not seen them, I'm going to talk spoilers about them while giving my review overall. Later on, I'm going to give you a second spoiler warning for the series finale, which if you've not seen yet, I'll talk about that later on. So I'm going to try and do this in a more spread out way of sorts. This is a weird review to do because my thoughts about this season are sort of mixed. I don't hate this season at all. Actually, I don't hate it at all. I overall thought it was fun and I did enjoy it, but I do have issues with the way certain things were handled. Before I get into my issues, though, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I do really like about this season. One of the things that has consistently improved with each season is the production. Once again, this is insane. The fact that this is a television show and it looks as great as it does, it looks better than Hollywood movies. In episode 3, The Long Night, when it's very dark at first and you can't really see much, which a lot of people complained about, the first third of that episode I found really dark and I actually could not see anything. But then I found out that it was going for a more naturalistic light setting, which doesn't exactly improve it, but then it got better once Drogon came down and started burning White Walkers. When that happened and you saw the shots where you see the sky and the clouds illuminating with the fire which is being breathed out of Drogon, I thought that's great. That's great because it looks amazing. Those shots were beautiful and the director of these couple of episodes, Miguel Sapochnik, is phenomenal. I think in the bells in episode 5 he did an even better job with the direction of the episode. That episode is insane and it goes along with the character transitions which Daenerys is going through, which is inside joke. And we'll talk more about that later. I have words about Daenerys's final thing that she does. But when you finally see the directional styles and all that, it's just amazing how well it's done. And there's a shot, even in episode 5, when Daenerys is burning down King's Landing. It just looks like something you'd see in a big budget Hollywood film on a TV screen. It's amazing. It's amazing the production value of these things. And I could go on and on about this. It's not just these couple of episodes where you really see it. Even episode 4 has it at points with the stuff with the Golden Company at one point, and you have Euron firing, arrows at the dragons, and he kills one of them. Bastard. And then you have so many of those little tidbits throughout the entire thing. That's really, really impressive. Also very good in this season, once again, is Ramin Djawadi's score, which I'm not sponsored to say this. I'm not being paid to say this, but it's now available. Please listen to the whole thing if you haven't yet. The Night King's, the piece, which is in the end of episode 3, is phenomenal, and I really loved it. And I think, once again, that really shines through. It's one of the strongest points of this entire series overall. I like the stuff he did for episode 5, The Bells, as well, and I think that's definitely a major highlight throughout the entire season. That is easily one of the best aspects of the whole thing. The acting also has actually never been better. I really loved everyone's performances in this, but if I was to give one person due credit over everyone, I would say it's Maisie Williams. I think she's come such a long way since season 1 started, and just to see her become this version of Arya Stark is amazing. I think she's a really wonderful character, and I was rooting for her the entire season. And I think she deserves a lot of praise for this. She honestly deserves award nominations and even awards, actually, if I was to be really, really honest. Peter Dinklage, once again, as Tyrion, amazing. I mean, this has been said over and over again. He's essentially carrying this entire show. He still has first billing. It's amazing because here's this gigantic cast, and the whole thing has been taken forward by him in such an amazing way, and he's kept this going now for 8 seasons, which is remarkable in its own way. And he gets some really amazing scenes in here. He gets some really amazing lines in here, more so in the final episode, which I will talk more about later on down the line in this video. Everyone's really good over here. I really love the performances, especially for Kit Harington. I think he's great as Jon Snow. I think Jon Snow's dialogue could be better in a few parts, but again, I'll get to that in a minute. And the same thing applies to Emilia Clarke as well. They're both great. They're both really, really great. It's more so some of the material they're given to work with where the show starts to run into a few issues. But again, I'm getting to that. I know. I'm sorry. I keep saying that. I'm getting to it. I promise. So really, technically, and from all sorts of those aspects of filmmaking, I would say, it's fantastic. And on that basis, I can't hate the season because I'm a filmmaking student. So when I see really good like achievement in terms of like how something is made, I can't hate those things because there are those positive aspects to keep it going. And they do keep season 8 going for the longest time, and that's what makes season 8 as good as it is. That being said, I wouldn't say it's phenomenal because I think that this season might be the weakest of the 8 seasons. That being said, like I said, I don't think it's bad. I think it's overall solid. It's fun. It's fun. But I think at this point in time, people have come to expect something from Game of Thrones that this season sort of lacks. That's the story and script. This is the 8th season, but this is also 6 episodes long, the shortest that any season has ever had. In order to make up for the fact that this has lesser episodes, 4 of those 6 episodes, starting episode 3, The Long Night, are an hour and a half each. Now, this could be a very cool thing, but I think what the problem with these episodes is that there's a lot of things that are introduced, and some of them are cut down very quickly. And some stuff is introduced so late in the game that it doesn't really have a lot of time to flourish. Which is where I get into Daenerys Targaryen, because her character goes through a major transformation throughout the first 5 episodes of this season. When she first arrives at Winterfell in episode 1, she's hopeful, she's optimistic, they're bringing everyone together to hopefully fight Cersei and to even fight off the White Walkers and the Night King, who's also approaching very quickly. And so there is a certain sense of, okay, this might actually work out, but she also knows that she's having a hard time getting along with everybody in the kingdom at that time, particularly with Sansa Stark, who's like, I don't trust you. You seem to be weird. In fact, you might be a horrible person. And it's hard because Jon Snow is not yet aware of the fact that he is her nephew, which is weird. Obviously, it leads to all that romance between them, which but throughout the season she's going through this self-doubt thing. She doesn't know if everyone believes in her, and after all that she's done, she's come to this point where she might have to take drastic measures in order to finally get the throne, to be able to do what she has been setting out to do since the beginning of this entire show. However, the transition that finally happens is sort of strange. As the season goes on, she starts to get a little more unstable as the proceedings continue. She loses her best friend, Missandei gets beheaded, 2 dragons are dead, including the Night King, when he killed Viserion and made him the Night Dragon, or the Ice Dragon. I call it the Night Dragon. Isn't that cooler? The Night Dragon? I call it the Night Dragon. What's the Ice Dragon? Stupid name. And so finally you have all of this amazing stuff, which is sort of building up to it, but then Daenerys' final snap moment into the bad guy of sorts is actually not even of sorts. The bad guy is just out of nowhere, and I feel like there should have been more build up to it. Don't get me wrong, I like the concept of having someone who has been a hero for all these seasons suddenly become the bad guy. I love that. I love when shows just subvert things like that, and it's something that I'm a fan of. So if you'd done this, I would still be okay with it. But I think this needed more time to marinate. I think it needed more time to really set in. Because once those bells ring in episode 5, once the Golden Company is destroyed and the first defenses of Cersei's army are taken down and King's Landing is completely like infiltrated and Cersei finally surrenders, like, okay, it's done. But then you see Daenerys on Drogon and she's getting angry and angrier and angrier. You're thinking, okay, what's gonna happen? Don't do it. And she's starting to go towards the castle. You're thinking, okay, that we're about to see her basically kill Cersei. Fine. But then she starts to kill everybody on the streets and everybody starts to die, and you realize, you know, there's flawed logic here because I understand the idea of, okay, they were all loyal to Cersei, and so, you know, we couldn't have even one of them living after whatever she's done. But on the other hand, I'm also looking at it thinking, except they're not loyal to her. They don't. A lot of people don't like her, but they have to live under her because otherwise they're probably gonna get executed on the streets. And so them all of them being killed and all these, you know, children as well. There's this scene with the girl who has that horse in her hand, the toy, which is a white horse, and then she's trying to save her mother, and then they get burned, and then Arya sees the white horse later on at the end of the episode. All of that, it's really affecting stuff, but again, you're also coming at this out of, you know, absolutely nowhere. Again, I like the concept. I would just like to see it better handled. And it made things very rushed. It made things seem very rushed. Let me get to the White Walkers as well, because they've been built up for a long time. The whole point of this show, in a lot of ways, was about building to the fact that winter is coming. Winter is coming. And once winter comes, these guys are going to come and they're going to start trying to killing us all. And then we're all going to die. And they're going to take over the world. And, you know, yeah, basically, in other words, we are fucked. Yeah, halfway through the season, they're done for. Now, again, as a subversion thing, that's fine. And I like the fact that it's Arya who kills the Night King. I'm fine with that. That's awesome. Again, like I said, Arya's arc in this, her entire character, this is my favorite. So I'm happy that she's the one who does the, you know, the deed. I'm fine with that. I just think, again, that they should have been a little more payoff to it. I would have been okay with the Night King dying like that if there was a little more build up to who he really was, and, you know, all the mysteries that were yet to be answered about him. Which is why I mentioned the rushed part, because I think that's where it feels rushed. They are answers that could have been given, but they're not necessarily given, either to, you know, maintain ambiguity on the fact that we'll never know, but he was just a strange villain. But I feel like they could have gone, again, more into it. There is that small little thing you see about him, I think, in season 6, right? It's the one with the when Max von Sydow is the three-eyed raven, and you see that they created the Night King. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But also at the same time, like, you gotta go more into detail. They kept it vague too. You're also keeping it vague. What are you doing? So yeah, that could have been handled a lot better. And of course, there are other issues throughout the story like that. Like I was saying about Jon's dialogue. Now, I like Jon Snow a lot, but you noticed how most of the episodes he's just like, I don't want it. I don't want the throne. I don't want the throne. So, Daenerys is my queen. Daenerys is my queen. He had very repetitive dialogue throughout, and then his final sort of, you know, like when he finally sees what Daenerys is doing to King's Landing, is like, oh my god, what have I done? I should have seen this coming from a mile away. Like, but you did. You did see it coming from a mile away. She did nothing about it. No, I couldn't have seen that coming. She seemed so good. Like, when did she seem good? They've been hinting at the fact that she was gonna lose it eventually, at least somewhere down the line. You know, she keeps hinting at it. I don't know. I think his dialogue could have been a lot better. This could have been handled a lot better, and there is time to do it, and there is potential to do it. But again, you have 4 hour-and-a-half long episodes to do it. You could have easily taken 10 episodes out for this season to work. I mean, this is the final season. You're ending everything here. And I don't know. I think it could have been handled a lot better. It really should have been handled a lot better in a few points. And really, that's where the season suffers. It's really with the storytelling aspects, a lot of the dialogue. There's just more payoffs to things that I was expecting that I didn't quite get. There are other little things that also don't quite go where I thought they would. One of those things being Jaime Lannister's arc, which is kind of introduced as a redemption arc at one point, and they ride that road until a lot of people actually said that his arc was sort of wasted towards the end because he was on this path of possibly betraying Cersei and going against the armies of King's Landing, and then he goes back to her at the in episode 5, which sort of seems like it sort of seems like a 180 from what we'd seen before. It also felt sort of anticlimactic because I was sort of expecting a bigger death for these characters, and it just sort of ends as the castle comes crashing down on Cersei and Jaime, and that's how they die. Cersei also didn't have much to do this season, which sort of disappointed me. I would have liked to have seen more of her, and her die maybe a crazier death than what actually happened. But she died scared and crying, so I'll take that. She's a horrible woman. She deserved to die. I don't know if Jaime deserved to die. I really liked his arc. I really liked that he was coming into his own. Especially after what he was having with Brienne. I'm like, hey, great. You finally got someone. She's upset that you're leaving. You're gonna die. You left her. She was a nice character. But yeah, those are my few little things with episodes 1 to 5 of Game of Thrones. I think that it just felt very rushed. And by the time I got to episode 5, I was defending the show up till 4, actually. The first 4 episodes I'm fine with, and first half of episode 5 as well. But then the second half, when Daenerys finally starts to burn down King's Landing, I just thought, this could have been a lot better. This really could have been a lot better. One other positive, though, I want to say is the Mountain versus the Hound. I did enjoy it. It pretty much gave me exactly what I wanted out of it. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine where he said, if I was a 13-year-old boy, what would I have wanted this to end with? The both of them dying. That's exactly what happened. That's cool, because frankly speaking, I thought about it, and I didn't see any other way it could have ended. So I'm glad it went out the way it did. So, yeah. Now I'm going to issue my second spoiler warning. That's the series finale. We're going to talk about this now. So if you've not seen the series finale, here we go. So after the whole destruction of King's Landing happens, Daenerys is officially the queen, and everyone's skeptical about that, obviously. She just committed mass genocide, not exactly something you want to put on your resume. And they're sort of realizing that, listen, we've been smart about all of this. We've been trying to do our best to make sure that this works out and we can get something like a good ruler here. But what she's done in one day is more than any one of us have, more than anything Cersei has ever done, ever. Like, she hasn't killed half the amount of people that Daenerys just did in one episode. I mean, that's genocide. Now you might be thinking to yourself, hey, Tyrion's the smartest character ever. He should have seen this coming from a mile away, but apparently he didn't. You know what? I'm gonna keep going back to the word over here. Yeah. And also, everyone's character was actually sort of taken aback by this. In a way, I could use the word which I had used again, but I also want to play the devil's advocate here, and that it's the show's way of saying that everything you've prepared for, everything you've thought about, maybe won't mean squat once you finally get to the ending, because it could all be undone like that, and it kind of is. So it's sort of cool in that regard that that they played with everyone's character that was like, oh yeah, none of you saw this coming, but in a way you did, because there were warning signs placed throughout the season that she might do something awful. She might not be who you think she is. So I don't know who to blame here. Am I supposed to blame the writing here, and that they didn't figure it out, or they just didn't want to believe that something would happen? I'm explaining a lot of disappointments with this season, and there's a lot of little things like that, but I do want to maintain that overall I did still enjoy it. When the action sequences do hit, they're amazing, and they're really fun, and they're some of the best the series has ever had. When episode 5 happens, when you see the big King's Landing sequence, it is amazing to behold. And I really did like it quite a bit. I really liked episode 6 overall as well. Similarly speaking, I think it did a good enough job tying in everything that had happened in the past 8 seasons, as well as wrapping up the story we've just seen. Would I have liked a more conclusive wrap up in a way? Would I have liked to see more? Yes, I would have very much liked to see more. I would have liked to see more of Daenerys as the Mad Queen. Sure, you would have ended up with a situation which was more like we've seen this with Cersei before, and it would have been echoes of the same thing. But I would have liked to have still seen it. It's like if you remember Avengers Endgame, the first hour of it is basically living in the world after the snap happens, right? Wouldn't it have been sort of interesting to see how her effect could have been like significantly maybe worse than what Cersei was doing? I know it sounds like it's much to ask, but I would have been interested to see it nonetheless. But I have to talk about Peter Dinklage in this episode because I think he knocked it out of the park. He has a few moments where he's monologuing, especially when after the thing that you know what? I'm going to talk about that first, and then I'll get back to Peter Dinklage. So let's talk about Daenerys' arc ending over here. It ends pretty much exactly as her arc in season 8 began. She's trying to make this sympathetic approach towards Jon, trying to explain that everybody who was ever loyal to Cersei has to go. And that involves everybody. And he's like, okay, listen, you're my queen, I have to listen to whatever you say. And then finally, he stabs her and during like a kiss and a hug. So it's like, okay, wow, did not see that coming, but wow, how do you go from here? And in a way, Drogon burning down the throne doesn't actually seem like a far-fetched thing because I understand the whole idea is that this is a symbol of, oppression and violence, and look what this getting this throne, look at what it's caused. And I understand the idea of how did the dragon understand that? But on the other hand, it's like, of course the dragon understands that. I wouldn't put it past him. Really. I mean, this dragon has seen enough shit at this point that I'm pretty sure the dragon understands simple things. It's like how the dragon knows that Jon's a Targaryen before even Daenerys knows that he's a Targaryen. She finds out at the end of episode 2, right? So, frankly speaking, yeah, the dragon understanding what the throne represents, sure. It's like, my mom got killed over this. Like, and I can't kill Jon because Jon's a Targaryen, and I can't kill Targaryen, so sorry. Yeah, okay, I'm fine with all of that. I'm fine with all of that. Bran becoming king. Okay. Okay. Um, I thought, yeah, okay. He's seen everything. Sure, he has a story to tell. Arya has a greater story to tell, but whatever. Fine. It's not the stupidest decision. Overall, I actually really, really liked the finale. I actually enjoyed it. There are some things which, like I said, I would have improved. Really, that first half, I wish that there was just more time to marinate on that. The second half of it felt like a season 1 episode. It actually felt like a throwback. And I appreciated that. I appreciate that it slowed down and it, came to this almost optimistic ending of sorts. Like, oh, this might actually have a nice, wrapped with a ribbon sort of an ending. And it sort of does. There's a lot of full circle moments that happen in it, which are like very quickly done. And again, I coming back to this. But again, in the end, I did appreciate the fact that they did find a way to bring it as around as best as they could, and I think it was one of the better episodes of the season. I know a lot of people apparently are hating it. I haven't looked at the Twitter chatter online, but this has got such a weird response from people that, frankly speaking, I wouldn't put it past anyone if this episode got a lot of hate. I didn't personally mind it. But then this entire review is a personal opinion. It is a personal approach. And overall, even despite all of the things that I didn't like about season 8, I still had fun with it. I'll still watch it again. There's still a lot of things I love about it. I do love all the visual stuff. I love the production, cinematography. Some of it is magnificent. Even episode 3. Yeah, it's a bit dark at points, but there are those few things that when they happen, some shots that are just, they blow your mind. I really love those. I love, like I said, the score, the performances. The directing, for the most part, is also really, really great. And, I loved all of it. It's really the story and some of the handling of certain elements of characters and their, character arcs, which I would like to have had a bit more of. Some things are concluded quickly. Some things could have been added on to a little bit more. But it does end on an overall fairly satisfying note that, I mean, I still enjoyed the season for what it was. That being said, like I said in the beginning, I think it was the weakest season of Game of Thrones to date, but I will still miss the show. I still have loved this show. I still will. You know, it has a lot of high points. It will still remain one of the finest shows on television. And it'll still be remembered in a positive light, despite the little inconsistencies in quality which this season has to offer. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this season for what it was. I'm gonna give Game of Thrones Season 8 a B. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I realized this review has gone very long, and I usually, like I said, I don't give spoilers, but I just had to. I had to talk in detail about these things. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. I have some more reviews in the week. I have to get Rocket Man still. I went to sleep after watching it yesterday because I was just tired. It was a long 2 to 3 days, and I'm also in the process of moving. So I gotta get all this stuff packed up and out of here. So there might be a while where you may get just audio reviews, or you may get videos with me, just not with a lot of stuff in the background. We'll figure that out. But for now, yeah, just gotta get some of the quicker, tinier little things like Rocket Man and maybe something else on Wednesday. Get those reviews out, and I'll have those to you very soon. As always, guys, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.